Hi, it's Sheri with Pearl at the Mailbox, and let's talk about it. Haven't been on here for quite a while. There's just been a lot going on. I've been doing a lot of traveling. I was in DC last week at the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Global Summit, which was just amazing. And forewarning, my dogs are here. I record this from home, so you're gonna probably hear some barking, and that's just the way that it is. So going back to DC, I work on a lot of federal legislation as a human trafficking survivor. The missing element, there's a lot of missing elements when it comes to protecting our children. And that is, one is grooming, and that's a topic that we will discuss because I have a whole book here written about grooming, what it is, preventions, and all kinds of information that I'll start sharing with you. But it's also just the fact that many schools don't talk about the grooming process before trafficking occurs. So in DC, I was able to meet with several lawmakers about grooming education, prevention, trafficking laws, laws that protect survivors. There's just a lot that needs to be done. As a survivor, I have found my voice, and I am very comfortable talking about my journey through that at the age of 15. I'm okay with it because I have found that it educates people so they realize that what they may know may not be right. And that is that anybody can be groomed. Any child at any age, that can happen to them. I have shared before that I was groomed at the age of 15 by my high school boyfriend's father. And then I was groomed. It was a 3-month period of changing my mindset to where I was creating a friendship and a bond with my groomer, which was, again, my high school boyfriend's father, and that relationship wasn't scary. He wasn't mean to me during those 3 months. He was filling voids that I had, such as just trying to find my place in the world, that not having a brother, that was kind of a big deal. And so my groomer knew that and said, I'll be the brother that you never had. Well, that resonated with me. But also everything that was happening to me up to the point before I was trafficked, I thought was kind of normal in a way. Yes, it was weird for me to be hanging out with people that were adults, but at the same time, they were not mean to me, so I had no reason to fear them. And that is an environment that they try to create, a groomer tries to create prior to flipping a switch and then trafficking and selling another human to another person. And shame on those buyers. That's something we'll talk about in the future as well. And it goes from what may have been considered somewhat normal to really bad. So back in DC, I'd like to share with you the legislation that Pearl at the Mailbox, my nonprofit, which is named in honor of Pearl, who rescued me, gave me a way out from my 7 years of being trafficked at an apartment mailbox. And to honor her, her courage, her bravery, her involvement in paying attention to what was going on around her, I chose to name my nonprofit after her. And as a consistent reminder that this woman cared enough to do something to help me. And for that, I will be forever grateful. She's no longer on earth, but let me tell you, I'm humbled. And so I do this in Pearl's name. So let's get back to a couple of things. This is my memoir, Pearl at the Mailbox. It's on Amazon. The cover is now different because we are no longer using this logo for our nonprofit, my nonprofit, Pearl at the Mailbox. So you'll see a different cover, and oh, here it is. So here's the new cover. This is the new cover that you'll see on Amazon. It's the same book. It's a non-graphic way that it just shares how I was groomed over 3 months. How my allegiance was slowly being built and created with the trafficker before I was trafficked for the first time. Non-graphic, it's good for teenagers to read, so maybe they could spot if some of this stuff might be happening to them. But now going back to legislation, and I apologize, I'm kind of bouncing around here. In Washington, D.C., I am trying to get a federal bill that finally describes what grooming with the intent to exploit is. Right now, there is no definition for that. There's nothing. There's some laws that kind of hint to it or use certain words or entice or coerce, but there's nothing at the federal level that defines that. And that is, in my opinion, not okay, because grooming is the gateway to trafficking. Most traffic individuals have a grooming period. There are those that just get snatched off the street and start being sold right away, but those are really a small number in the world of trafficking. It's mainly a relationship has been built before things change and become selling. So I met with I met with 4 lawmakers on Capitol Hill to share my message and the importance of the federal government finally defining something. Because what I have found working on legislation for the last 3 years locally in my state of Arizona is that if the federal government will put a law in place such as this, that the states may follow suit. In Arizona, we tried to get the state to define grooming. There was a lot of pushback because now the word grooming has been used to apply to anything that someone doesn't like that's pertaining to children when it's not accurate. Grooming was actually defined in 1980 by an FBI agent who said that grooming, the term was that it was a calculated, methodical process that a perpetrator used to build trust and a relationship that the individual that they were going to abuse, sell, traffic. And that's what it has been for a long time. But now the word is used in many different ways, which is not the original definition of grooming. Grooming is for one person who is working on creating a bond with another person. And of course, we focus on the child side. So an adult who's trying to work with a child to mentally manipulate them to get them to do what they want to do and ultimately sell them or abuse them. That's grooming with the intent to exploit. So in Arizona, we had a lot of pushback from organizations that supposedly say they protect people and individuals' rights, such as the ACLU. They really have pushed back, saying in so many ways, it just seems like the predator is more protected than the victim. And that's not right. So going through the process, we did get a law passed in Arizona, and it's called child enticement. But to me, that just sounds terrible. It makes it sound like the child is enticing the perpetrator to do something. It just doesn't sound right. And it really doesn't acknowledge the actual fact that grooming is a precursor to human trafficking, that grooming is mentally manipulating another person to do what the trafficker wants them to do, and that there is a lot of emotional abuse, there can be physical abuse, and there's a lot of threats and other requirements just to keep people sadly in line and continuing the journey that the trafficker wants. So it's just not a good thing. So if we can get this bill you can read the general language that I just drafted, and I'm not a bill writer. I just create things with things in them that I would like to see happen. If you go to our website, pearlatthemailbox.org, and you look under GEPA, GEPA, that's the bill language. That's what I have presented to the lawmakers that I was able to meet with. And I dropped this off at many other lawmakers' offices up there that I couldn't get an appointment with. And we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know if they're going to do anything, but I'm going to continue to stay in contact and push this forward because it's needed. So we did that, and then also Pearl at the Mailbox was invited to the ATIP Roundtable Anti-Trafficking in Person Policy Summit because Pearl at the Mailbox has been working on the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act with many great leaders and organizations that have a heart for survivors who have been charged with crimes while they were being trafficked. So in essence, they were being forced to commit these crimes. Otherwise, they knew the consequences of what would happen to them. And our body is meant to survive, no matter how much abuse it takes. The will to live, even though mentally you want to check out and you don't want to live in these really abusive situations of being trafficked, your body will continue to live. So the reality of, if you don't go rob this bank with me, because as a trafficker, I'm telling you to do that, this is just a hypothetical, well then, we're gonna kill your sister or your brother, or the threats come in, and nobody wants to be responsible for the death of another human being while being trafficked. And they also know what will happen to them if they don't participate. So they participate, and then they get charged as well as a perpetrator in a crime. And then no one takes into account the mental coercion that they were under when they were forced to commit that crime. So the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act is designed to help survivors who were charged with federal crimes to be able to petition the court to have those charges removed from their record if they can prove that they were trafficked at the time. Being trafficked is being brainwashed. And when you're physically hurt so much, I mean, the stuff that my body has gone through, and one of the punishments was to submerge in water, face in water, so that you get to the point where you pass out. So it's like the beginning of drowning. I mean, it's horrific. And there's a lot of things I don't feel comfortable talking about that was done to me specifically in order to keep me in line and scare me so much that I did what I had to do. And then your body, your mind also goes to another place just to survive. It is horrific abuse, being trafficked. And then you have to think about the component aspect of the buyers and all that they're doing to you too, and how they're trying to not see you as a human being. I mean, I had pillowcases put over my face because the buyer could not see that I, at the time, was a child, that I was young, and that they were doing this to another human being for their selfish gratification. Not cool. So I will be popping on here and there just to share some more information and have some conversations about grooming. Because again, grooming is a process. Grooming is the precursor to being trafficked or abused. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't understand it, if we don't learn what it is or what it may look like, and in each case it can be so very different, you're going to miss it. And it's very common to miss. The one thing that I always say when I speak before an audience is the one thing that I've noticed with all survivors is the behavior change. Now, I was already a very quiet kid to begin with. So when you hear, oh, a warning sign is a child who becomes more quiet or isolated, That didn't help in my case because I was already that way. I did things differently. I tried to provoke my parents either to get mad at me or almost like an infant, hang on them so they'd have a conversation with me so that some way I would have courage to share what was happening. But it just didn't happen. So no situation is different. Let me just read you a little bit. Now, again, this book is so important, and I'm trying to get this in the hands of teachers. It's a survivor's guide to protecting children from grooming and trafficking for teachers, parents, and community leaders. Anybody really should read this. This was supposed to be just a handout that when I go speak, I give to people. It has turned into 250 pages only because I had so much to share. Now, granted, the table of contents is 2.25 pages, but I'm just going to read you some of the chapters that are in here. The book starts with a pre-test to help you see where you are in understanding grooming and exploitation, and then the answer key is in the back. Chapter 2 is grooming versus trafficking. What's the difference? Chapter 3 is consent, grooming, and human trafficking. Chapter 4 is what is a groomer? Chapter 5, what is human trafficking? Chapter 6, myth versus facts about grooming. 7, signs of potential grooming. Chapter 8, types of groomers. Chapter 9, types of grooming, because there's very many different types of grooming and trafficking. Chapter 10, why you should be concerned about grooming. 11, what is in-person grooming and how does it work? Chapter 12, what ages are at risk of grooming? Chapter 13, how groomers operate. 14, do kids being groomed realize what's happening? Chapter 15, will kids tell if they are being groomed? 16, why it's a disservice not to teach about grooming prevention. 17, how to talk to kids about grooming. 18, can kids groom other kids? 19, how groomers target parents, understanding family grooming. Chapter 20 is what is sextortion and can it lead to grooming? Chapter 21, can the use of porn lead to being groomed? Why people think grooming won't happen to them. That was 22. Chapter 23, do groomers want to always traffic? Chapter 24, why kids hide they're being groomed. Chapter 25, how kids hide grooming from their parents. 26, can groomers be dangerous when found out? Chapters 27, trafficked versus promiscuity. Chapter 28, why a child may return to a groomer or trafficker, which is not uncommon. Chapter 29, why convicted groomers and traffickers say they did it. Chapter 30, groomers and blackmail. 31, what parents could do if they suspect grooming. Chapter 32, what to do if grooming has turned into trafficking. 33, do parents traffic their own children? Chapter 34, online grooming versus in-person grooming. 35, who are online groomers? 36, how online groomers find their victims. 37, how online groomers start conversations. 38, secretive or coded methods. 39, red flags you might be talking to a groomer online. 40, how to stop an online groomer. 41, the dangers of unmonitored social media apps and online games. 42, how to help a child who has been groomed put their life back together. 34, teach. 44, how to empower children with knowledge about grooming. 45, helping a trafficked child feel safe. 46, testing boundaries. 47, helping trafficked kids rebuild their confidence. 48, what is trauma-informed care? 49, long-term support for a child who has been groomed or trafficked. 50, ways to help healing. 51, why does it take so long for a groomed or trafficked child to feel normal again? 52, ways parents can get help for themselves when their child has been groomed or trafficked. 53, trauma triggers. 54, when to involve the police, reporting grooming or abuse. Chapter 55, do groomed and trafficked children trust the police? 56, helping children understand their private parts. 57, why schools and churches must teach grooming prevention. 58, does grooming really happen in schools? Yes, it does. 59, how to help teachers spot grooming of a student. 60, understanding slang that groomers and teens use. 26, what is online clout? 62, ways survivors can educate teachers, school staff, and other adults who work with children. 63, why survivors' voices are important. 64, here are the most essential things. 65, checklists and cell phone contact lists. Great list to see if your kids are ready for social media or phones. And then, of course, the answer to the pre-test. It also has the number for the National Grooming Prevention Hotline that Pearl at the Mailbox operates, which is 623-688-3214. And that is so that if you have questions about grooming, you can ask. I know reading through all the chapters, it's a lot, but this book is so important for people to finally get a grasp of what grooming is, because we teach our kids fire safety, stop, drop, and roll. We teach our kids how to drive a car. We teach our kids lots of things, but we don't teach our kids to spot somebody who's trying to groom them. So we need to talk more about grooming. We need to talk more about the grooming process. I need to get in front of more people to be able to share how it happened to me and to educate others. So I thank you for your time. Please reach out to me at pearl@themailbox.org. There is so much useful information on our website, and you can see the bills that we are working on locally in Arizona, and I will be back for another episode soon. Have a good day.